Emanating from the wrestling capital of the world, Calgary, Dramatic Pause, Alberta, Canada, and broadcast to the world at www.stormwrestling.com and www.liveaudiowrestling.com. This is Storm Warning, your weekly audio check-in with Extreme Championship Wrestling superstar Lance Storm.
Lance, how you doing this week?
I'm doing great.
Hey, you guys were in Smoky Mountain country there on the weekend. How'd that work out?
That was a lot of fun, actually. There was a lot of fans that remembered me from Smoky Mountain, and I even bumped into a guy that used to film the promos for Cornette.
Oh, yeah?
So I didn't even recognize him. I felt terrible, but once I started talking to him, I knew who he was. So.
Was it nice going back?
Yeah, it was. I've always liked Tennessee. It's a real beautiful part of the country. It was nice and warm.
Mm-hmm.
It was nice to go back.
You mentioned in your commentary if you didn't live in Calgary, you'd want to live there.
Yeah, like I lived in Knoxville for about a year and really, really enjoyed it. Both my wife and I really loved it down there.
Mm-hmm. What was it like working for Jim Cornette?
It was a lot of fun. Unfortunately, business-wise, he wasn't doing all that well. But, it was a lot of fun. It was an interesting style having to work more of the old school that Cornette liked and that the Tennessee fans were used to. But it was a real good experience. First chance on TV in the States, so. You
still have fond memories of the Thrill Seekers?
I've got memories of it. Some of them fun, some of them not.
What stands out in your mind, both good and bad?
I loved working with Chris. That was the best, and the matches with Tom and Jimmy. They were a really great team, both really talented guys. I think on the low end, the repetitiveness.
Right.
Like, you'd do a program with a guy and you'd wrestle the same guy every single night for months. And you'd get a bit tired of that.
Right. The big news coming out of the TNN taping this week sees Masato Tanaka defeat Mike Awesome for the ECW heavyweight strap. Was this a surprise?
Yeah, it was. I didn't even know they were booked in a match until I'd actually saw the lineup halfway through the card.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think anyone was expecting a title change that quick. When you're only a few weeks out from a pay-per-view, you don't expect too much to happen. So when something big really happens, people are like, "Wow, how's this affect the pay-per-view now?" Right.
Well, yeah. What happens with Spike Dudley now?
I don't know. I believe they're still going ahead with Mike Awesome, Spike Dudley. I believe there's a rematch between Awesome and Tanaka Thursday night in White Plains.
Mm-hmm.
So depending on what happens there, I would imagine it'll either be a title match or a non-title match.
Predictions?
No.
Don't want to give anything away?
Don't want to let the cat out of the bag. I don't want to get any heat.
The TNN show this week, I guess we're going to be seeing Tanaka versus Awesome. What else are we going to be able to see?
I'm trying to think now what all happened. You will be seeing Dreamer, Raven, and the Impact players, not in a match, but beating the crap out of each other.
I understand you guys carved up Raven pretty good this weekend.
Yeah, Justin punched him in the head with a chain and then whacked him with a stick pretty hard, so he was bleeding a bit.
Right. What about? I'm hearing good things about your match with Tommy Dreamer on the weekend.
Yeah, I guess a lot of people had some positive feedback on that. It was the main event of the night. I think done more just for the house than for TV. It may appear in syndication, I don't know. And we pretty much just brawled all over the building, which was a lot of fun because it was a very historic building. It's where they did one of the Flair Steamboat pay-per-views.
Yeah, you mentioned that in your commentary.
Yeah, so it was kind of neat, and we went all over the place, and it just clicked really well. Tommy seemed to be feeling healthy and good, so we pretty much pulled out all the stops and went and beat the crap out of each other.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, how's Tommy's back holding up after a match like that?
It seems to be good, actually. He, I forget what it was. I had mentioned to him before that there was, one bump that he took that was just insane. And he said, actually, oddly enough, it seemed to put his back in.
Oh, yeah?
He said it took a couple bad bumps that should have killed him and seemed to put things back in order, so he seems to be feeling pretty good now.
What have you heard about the proposed ECW/FMW NWO takeover of the FMW promotion? Have you heard anything about that?
I haven't heard a lot. I know Fuyuki was in town taking some pictures and wanting to do something. I believe it's pretty much strictly going to be a Japan thing, not so much over here, which is fine by me because any rehash of NWO or recently done angles to me just is a waste. I'm a big fan of pulling something out of the closet that hasn't been seen in 20 or 30 years. I think Jim Cornette was really good at that. He's one of those guys that just remembers every angle ever done in the history of the world.
Right.
But when you're rehashing stuff that's been done 1, 2, 3 years ago, it's like, been there, done that. I don't want to watch reruns.
Yeah, it's pretty 5 minutes ago.
Yeah.
Would you be interested in going to Japan at all, anytime soon?
I've always loved working in Japan. I would go. Not really all that thrilled about the whole FMW idea, though. Worked for them my first year in the business, was treated poorly,
Mm-hmm.
although I don't even think it's the same management now.
I was going to say the same people there.
Yeah, I just really wasn't happy with the way I was treated. Tenryu treated me extremely good, and I would rather go over for him or for New Japan, both companies I've worked for, and they treated me well. But, you know, if Paul asked me to, I would probably as a favor to him more than to FMW, but it's not something I'm really looking forward to.
The Axe fell this weekend in ECW. Chris Candido, Tammy Lynn Sitch, and Axel Rotten all released. What can you tell us about this?
Well, yeah, they were, I believe, fired during the week for outside the ring conduct, not inside the ring conduct. And, you know, I think it was a really, really tough decision for Paul to make, but, you know, he had to, you know, gut it out and do what he felt was best for the company. I got an email, oddly enough, which obviously was forwarded to a lot of people from a fan, or maybe it was even one of them, I don't know, suggesting that people petition ECW to bring them back because they're talented people that, you know, people enjoy seeing. And I thought that was kind of odd because I think, you know, their petition or their request should perhaps be more redirected at the three of them, because I think, you know, they need to, you know, get their life, their act together, get things straightened out, because, you know, when they're on, they're extremely talented people, and anyone would take them back. But unfortunately, just, you know, the way they're leading their life right now and everything, it was just a decision Paul had to make that they wasn't in the best interest of the company.
With Chris and Tammy gone, how does this affect Rhino?
I don't think it affects Rhino at all. I think the tag match that he and Candido lost to us was going to be probably his last tag match anyway.
Oh, okay.
I think Paul has big plans for him, probably big plans as a single. So I don't think him and Candido were really, really long-term plans anyway. He's just going to step him up and have him go on his way. Rhino's really talented. He's going to do well.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. The ECW Acclaim Hardcore Revolution video game is coming out relatively soon. Do we have a release date on this yet?
Yeah, it's called Hardcore Thursday, February 17th, 2000. I joked to my wife because it's 2 days before her birthday that I'm going to get her a PlayStation for her birthday.
And who's she going to be, though, when she plays?
I don't imagine she's going to, so although maybe then she'll probably beat me up while I'm away on the road. Yeah, they had a production video out this weekend that we were watching in a locker room. I think if you pre-order the game, you get the video as a holdover, and it's really, really well done. They've got the cover. I believe the video game is going to come out in 4 collector's boxes,
Okay.
with 4 different covers on the box, with I think having a sticker over the cover over the face on the box because it's going to be bloody. It's got a rated game. I think you have to be 18 to buy it.
Who's on the covers, do you know?
I believe there's one of Justin and Sabu from Anarchy Rules. I think New Jack, probably Dreamer, and I think Rob Van Dam.
No Lance Storm.
Not that I've been told, although I'm on the one box, just not the center picture, just a small picture in the corner.
I hear there's some hidden characters in the game. Louis Spicoli, Original Sheik.
Yeah, there's a few, and there's a lot of like non-wrestling characters in it too, like Joey Styles, Cyrus. There's even like our sound guy Randy. Some guys from RF Video I think are also characters. I think they'll be hidden characters if you get so far, then you can like beat up the sound guy.
Hey, are we going to see Cyrus? Speaking of Don Callis, are we going to see Cyrus on TNN this week?
Actually, yeah. He has a large part in the Masato Tanaka Mike Awesome match that ends up happening. He gets involved with Joel and Paul Heyman as well.
I understand he reveals which office he's working for.
Yes, which I thought was quite ingenious.
That's a good one. Yeah, I read about it on the net last weekend. The in your commentary this week on StormWrestling.com, you talked a lot about the books you read when you're on the road. Obviously, you guys have been passing along Foley's and Billington's book, but what other kind of books pop up on the road?
Oddly enough, you know, there's only a half dozen guys that read a lot. Balls Mahoney reads a lot, surprisingly enough. A lot of people didn't think he would. I'm not really sure what he's into as far as reading. I know Jericho's a huge Stephen King fan.
Oh, yeah.
And reads him all the time. I don't know. I don't pass too many books around, oddly enough. I guess, you know, with Smoky Mountain, where am I thinking? ECW. With shorter flights and more road travel time, you don't have as much time to read. Where when you're internationally and reading, you know, in Japan and stuff, there's a lot more travel where you have an opportunity to read. I know Mike Awesome said he used to read a lot when he was in Japan.
Right. Do you have a book on the go right now?
Actually, no. I haven't started another one since I finished Foley's. The next one I'm reading is probably another Dean Koontz. I've got a hardcover that's got 3 stories in it, but I'm going to get into the second one of that, I think.
Did you get a chance to check out the WCW Starrcade pay-per-view at all?
No, unfortunately I missed it. I don't get a chance to see too many pay-per-views. Jeff Jones just got me a copy of Armageddon this past weekend, so I saw Jericho China.
I thought it was a decent match.
I thought it was an extremely good match.
Yeah.
I thought it was a lot better than their first one, and they had some really good near falls. The crowd was into it. There's a couple near falls that the crowd bought completely, and I thought it was a really good match. Better than a lot of matches between two guys that have been wrestling for a long time on pay-per-view lately.
Right. Let's get to a couple emails here. We got something from Scott in Ottawa. Hey, Lance, I admit I might just be another one of your thousands of Canadian fans.
Thousands? What happened to millions and millions?
No, it's, thousands of thousands. You got to build, Lance. You got to build.
Yeah, we're only UCW, I guess, right?
First off, Lance, who is your favorite wrestler to work against?
To work against, two parts. As a babyface, working against Fit Finley is by far the best. Dave Finley from WCW. I think at working as a heel, I prefer probably Jerry Morrow. Boy, I'm really out of it today. Jerry Lynn. I think he's probably the easiest babyface to work with when you're a heel. He's so easy to work with, and you can have such great matches with him.
A follow-up question to that, who's your favorite wrestler to tag with?
Boy, I've had some good ones, I'll tell you. Jericho, Candido, Justin, and even Yasu in Japan was a great partner. I think I'm enjoying Justin probably the most out of them all.
Why is that?
Well, Jericho was a little harder because we both wanted to run things and lead things, and we had sort of strong ideas where we wanted to go, and they weren't always in the same direction. Candido was difficult because he likes working so darn hard you can't ever get in the ring. That guy gets in and he doesn't ever want to tag out. He likes working so hard. Justin and I just seem to really be on the same page as far as what's important in a match, where we want to go with a match, and he seems to be more often than not willing to let me make the final call on where we're going, which I enjoy. So I really like tagging with Justin.
Scott's got some more questions here. Which move is the most difficult for you to pull off successfully?
Well, there's obviously moves I don't even do, but I think probably the one successfully to me is really, really well, probably the German suplex. I don't use it often because I'm not really all that happy with mine. It's just one of those few bumps that I find to really hit well, you have to concentrate on how you're landing and not your opponent as much, and that's just against the way I'm used to it. I'm always concentrating more on landing my opponent in a safe position, and I tend not to land with the best bridge, so I try to avoid the German.
Who taught you how to do the German suplex?
Nobody ever really did. It was just one of those ones that you sort of start working on your own with, and it takes time, and I just sort of, I don't know, haven't had the opportunity to do it enough where I've gotten good at it, so I sort of end up just tending to avoid it.
Who's got the best German suplex in the biz?
Whew, I tell you, Jerry Lynn's got a dandy one.
Right.
I've seen a few of the matches with Rob Van Dam where Jerry doesn't even touch the mat at all, his head or anything. He just manages to bridge and land on Rob. Actually, what's his face? The new Japanese kid they're calling Pokemon as a rib. What's his name again?
Oh, Akuta Hidaka.
Hidaka. He's got a phenomenal bridge.
Yeah. Pokemon.
Yeah.
He's getting over his Pokemon.
Well, as long as he's getting over, that's the important part.
Scott's got a couple more here. Scott from Ottawa wants to know, what do you consider your greatest achievement in wrestling?
There's been a few. I don't know what you'd call more. I know when I was in Japan, I hit a landmark, which I thought in my mind, to the point where Tenru was letting me book matches. When we had the six-man title belts, not so much like book angles or anything, but we had the six-man title belts, and we were doing matches. It got to the point where he would come in, basically tell you who's up, and then tell everybody in the room, look, Lance is making this match. Everybody just listen to him. Wow. And there was guys like Katao and guys that have been in the business for a lot longer than I have sitting there.
Yeah, how long had you been in the business at that point?
Would have been 96 or 7, so about 6 years. And he just, I guess had respected my input and my thoughts in a match, and he knew that the matches were, getting clustered, which six-mans tend to do. And probably the last, 3 or 4 tours that I was there, whenever I was in a match, he would, get the guys together and say, look, just listen to him. He's going to put your match together for you.
Scott's got one more question for you here, Lance. What do you think of the WWF and WCW, and have you had offers from them to join?
What I think of them, World Wrestling Federation is an entertaining show. I wouldn't call it necessarily a wrestling show, but I don't think Vince wants you to anyway. I'd like to see more wrestling in it. Some of their angles are a bit much for me, but that's someone else's call. If you don't like it, don't watch it. If you do, do. And there's obviously enough people that do. WCW, I find, just seems lost. It used to at least always have at least it's a better wrestling product than New York. Even if the storylines didn't seem to make as much sense, or if their production didn't seem as good. Now they don't even have that.
Yeah, they're in a really weird space right now.
Yeah, it might just be, a transition time that, Russo just needs more time to turn things around. You can't turn, a product around in, 8 weeks, 10 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So perhaps he'll get it straightened around, but they don't have a whole lot of wrestling, and I'm not a real big fan of their storylines either.
Mm-hmm.
As for accepting an offer or taking an offer, I haven't been given one by either company. If I would, it would have to be a really good one, which isn't necessarily just money, but I would have to believe that they're really interested in doing something with me.
Right. Plus, you're a really loyal guy. I know you're really loyal to Paul right now.
Well, yeah, I'm not going anywhere for at least a year because I've got a deal with him for that long at least. But, even if I'm ever going to leave, it would have to be an offer where I felt like they were going to appreciate my talents and do something with me.
Lance, Christmas is on the horizon. We're a couple days away. What's your favorite Christmas movie?
I'm a huge mark for The Grinch Who Stole Christmas.
Oh yeah?
I got the tape at home. I watch it at least 2 or 3 times a year. This year was the first year my daughter was old enough to really enjoy it.
Oh, did she dig it?
Yeah, she digs it. I just love the songs.
I'm sorry?
I just like the songs in it.
Christmas, a couple days away. What do you want under your tree?
Probably ECW tag belts, but we have to wait a while for those.
Those come in January. Oops.
Oops. Hey, did you say that or did you book that? Actually, I don't know for sure that they are, but I certainly hope so.
Any news on Shawn Michaels or Dusty Rhodes?
I haven't heard a word on Dusty. I heard he was supposed to be at one of the past tapings and wasn't, so I don't know whether there's been a falling out already or whether it's just, things got rerouted. I don't know. As for Michaels, I really don't know. I've heard that, I had heard that Vince wants us to use a couple of his developmental guys.
Oh yeah, any names?
Glenn Gulka and the other name I don't recognize.
Oh, Kulka, eh?
Yeah, so, which actually, he's from what I understand, a great athlete, and I've met him. He's a nice guy, and he's got a phenomenal look.
Oh, he does.
He's got, like, the
dynamite,
huge
yeah.
shoulders and traps like Sid. And, I think we could use him for a while without any problems. So I'm hoping maybe perhaps that would give us a little bit of leverage to say, hey, how about you give us Shawn for a day? I heard there was an accident at his school, too, so I don't know whether he's busy tied up with that now or what.
Yeah,
so.
one of his kids really got messed up.
Yeah,
Bad back bump or something like that.
Yeah, I heard he took a bad backdrop or something and is in really bad shape. So perhaps he's got more things on his plate than he needs to deal with us. But,
sure, but if Shawn came in, it would probably be for the pay-per-view.
That would certainly be the best bet for us, the chance to really capitalize on his name and his value and make some money out of it.
Right. You guys only have one show this week. What are you guys doing?
Well, it's a TV taping in White Plains, New York. Before the show, we are filming the commercial for the video game.
Oh yeah.
It was originally a 2-day weekend. And Acclaim wanted the ring there at 10 o'clock in the morning, set up and ready to film. And Paul said, well, we can't do that because we have another show. And I think Acclaim just said, how much money do you make on a show? Paul said, oh, this much. They said, okay, here it is.
Wow.
Just handed him the money and said, cancel the show.
Just pulled some off the tree, huh? Here you go.
Yeah,
Paul.
here you go. Merry Christmas, cancel your show. So we're going to be there at 10 a.m. filming the commercial for the video game. I don't know what that is going to entail entirely. And then we have the TV taping afterwards. So it'll be a full day.
Perfect. We'll talk to you next week, Lance. Have a very Merry Christmas.
All right, Merry Christmas.
Fans, if you want Lance to answer your questions on this show, email us at lancestorm@home.com. And don't forget to check back often at www.stormwrestling.com, the official website of Lance Storm for news, updates, and commentary. Retransmission in whole or in part of this broadcast without the expressed written consent of Lance Storm and live audio wrestling is strictly prohibited.